Je anilo premadano karma kacho. There's huge groups with big following and big money. And it will happen even more. And it will happen. It will happen more. It's predicted in the Vedas that it will happen in this age.
I think if you look at the diversity, you've got ideological diversity, different ideas, and then there are people, diversity. Like just look around this room, it's enough diversity. So it looks like the key skill will be tolerance and how to relate to others.
No, that's all right. I'm not saying that, but you are right. It will be tolerance is always necessary. But what I'm trying to say is tolerance doesn't mean that when something is wrong, when someone is a murderer, you don't tolerate it. When a man is about to kill another man, you don't say, be tolerant and let him do it. Yet when people are ready to kill each other's consciousness by bogus philosophy, suddenly we're all supposed to become tolerant. But I think it's worse to kill a man's consciousness than to kill his body. When you kill his body, he dies once. When you train him to think that you're God and he gives up worshiping God, he may have to take 10,000 births because of that mistake. So I agree with you that we should be tolerant, but it doesn't mean we should be ignorant. An ignorant man can also be very tolerant because he can't make out any differences. So, if you can be intelligent and then be tolerant, that's fine. The way I'm tolerant is that I go on preaching and preaching to these people that you're wrong in the way you're thinking. But I don't become angry with them, and I don't stop. I keep going on them. But tolerance doesn't mean you're good, I'm good, we're all good. Yes, you're good, we're all good, potentially. But right now, what you believe in is bogus. I mean, that's the position. I'm not speaking to you personally. I'm saying, do you understand my point?
Yes.
Spiritually, potentially, I accept everyone as a brother. But I see that many people have become deviated in their beliefs. And I cannot just say, every belief is okay. All is one. 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't equal 5. If someone says it equals 5, I have to tell them you're wrong. If someone starts saying that Brahma is God, Shiva is God, Indra is God, I have to explain, let's talk Vedas. You want to talk like this? Let's talk Vedas. Jesus is God. Let's talk the Bible. Mohammed is God. Let's talk in the Quran, because it doesn't say that. Mohammed has become the body of Allah. It doesn't say that in the Quran. So if I just tolerate it, then I'm agreeing in I'm participating in their illusion. I'm not going to do that. The biggest problem is ignorance. So if all of you, who are here today, I think there's 2 issues. One, to actually use your intelligence to discriminate and see if this philosophy is authentic as opposed to other philosophies. If you become convinced that it is, the second thing is, are you prepared to commit yourselves to some degree of participation? Before you participate, first study it. And if you become convinced, the next question will be, are you prepared to participate? Are you prepared to give whatever you can give in whatever way you're able to give? And that will have to do with sincerity. Because even someone may be convinced, but they may be very covered by material desires. And they may just say, I don't have interest. Of course, I think that if all of you are sitting and have interest, otherwise we wouldn't be here together today.
Because we are taking a long time, I don't want to ask more questions. Lots of questions I have, pretty sure others too. Just want to, as a study of knowing, we are in that process, at least I am.
Yes.
And I wanted to know is, when did Lord Rama rule India?
Ram ruled in the previous Yuga, in Treta Yuga. And it is millions of years ago. Millions of years ago. The idea that man only came, that human beings only existed. The idea that human beings only existed according to anthropologists so many years ago is not accepted in Vedic understanding. We understand that civilizations existed many millions of years ago. The fact that they didn't leave skyscrapers and other things is not a proof of their non-existence. For example, they don't bury the dead. So the fact that you can't find, human skeletons doesn't prove that there wasn't a Vedic civilization millions of years ago. They burned the bodies. They lived simplistically. They lived in a simple way, not low consciousness, but they lived in a simple village life, basically. Now, so Ram ruled millions of years ago. Krishna appeared approximately 5,000 years ago. So some people say Ram came before Krishna. But no, it's not correct. Because Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. He comes again and again in a cycle. Ramchandra comes in a regular interval. Krishna also appears regularly. The 4 yugas are each of a specific duration. And when they're completed, they begin again, another cycle of 4. And Krishna comes occasionally in every one of these cycles of 4, as does Ram. While they're coming, they are eternally present also in the kingdom of God. Beyond this material creation, there are spiritual planets. The highest spiritual planet is known as Krishna Loka, and Krishna exists there in his full form, as we see pictured. He has the ability to expand himself, so that when it's time for his avatar in this world, he remains in the spiritual world, and another expansion of his comes into this world simultaneously. Ramchandra also can do this. And not just once, they can do it many times. They can have many expanded forms. So now, to understand this requires just a little bit of study. When I'm speaking now, it's a lot of information. And to hear it, it can become a little confusing. I assure you that if you make a little bit of regular study of our literature, the terms will start to become very clear, the concepts will become clear. When I first heard these lectures given by my Guru Maharaj, it was not so clear, because the concepts are new, or relatively new. So just like in any science, if you start hearing concepts in the beginning, it's a gradual thing where it's developed. In the same way, there are books that we publish. If you make a regular study of them, all the concepts will become very clear, and you'll become very convinced. That's what convinced me. 2 things: the philosophy and the personal example of my spiritual master, my Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada. I saw the philosophy, and I saw one living by the philosophy. That was very convincing. So Krishna came 5,000 years ago, most recently, and Ram came a certain number of millions of years ago.
Why did Dasharatha have 4 wives? Was that allowed?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
In past, one could have more than one wife. The reason being that, first of all, they were qualified and capable of satisfying their wives. In other words, they were not envious, or the women were not envious, although you saw there was some envy on the part of one of them. But generally the women, none of the people of that age were envious. The kings were very equally disposed towards their wives, and they were very well-to-do. They had the full ability to maintain many wives. Not nobody was taking advantage of their wife. They were serving their wives very nicely. Why? Because a certain part of the population of men will not get married. Many men will remain brahmachari. But the women should be married, because a woman physically can bear children. So the nature of a woman is that she will also want to bear children. So in the Vedic system, all the women were married. But some of the men were brahmacharis. So to accommodate this, one qualified man could marry more than one. Sometimes there's an exception in the other way, which is Draupadi. She married 5 husbands. But generally, it was the way that a man could accept more than one wife, but he had to have the ability to look after them equally and properly. Now, to maintain one wife is very difficult. So in this age, it is not permitted. And the government doesn't permit it. So we don't violate the laws of the land. I think we will stop today. I have to give a lecture again at the temple later on today. If you are interested, you can come. Otherwise, I will suggest, if you like, that you can leave your names with us, and we can send you a copy of the video, and you can get some other videos also. We can chant for 2 or 3 minutes. We'll chant Hare Krishna, and then we'll go. We have also had some. Today they have made some prasadam here.
Excuse me, Prabhu.
So everyone should stay for a nice dinner which has been prepared also. Yeah, you can follow. Good. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Om Vishnu Bhavanamanda Varvarajikachajastatara Shishimadis Davangeshna Hesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Rimjagahosi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sisi Radha Krishna Gogobina Shama Kunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Vrindavandam Ki Bhaktaradam Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Navadviptam Ki Jamunamai Ki Ganga Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Samavida Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Go Premanandi.
Jayam Vishnupada Paramhans Parivadik Acharya Sukotara Satish Divine Dear Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Srila Gurudev Ki Srila Gurudev Ki